Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, calls for President Ruto's exit grow louder as violent anti-government protests continue in Kenya. The country's Rights Commission condemns the use of excessive and sometimes fatal force on demonstrators. Also, villagers in DR Congo count the cost of pollution as their lives and livelihoods are placed in jeopardy by the dangerous runoff from copper and cobalt mines. Others reap the benefits of their country's mineral wealth whilst they pay with their health. And Tunisian athletes put their game face on just a few weeks ahead of the Paris Olympics, particularly those representing taekwondo and wrestling, the sports with the most qualifying Tunisian athletes. They're getting ready knowing that the stakes are high. But first, in Kenya, crowds in Nairobi clashed with police and security forces using tear gas, water cannon and live bullets at Tuesday's anti-government rallies. President William Ruto's failed to appease the youth protest movement, despite having withdrawn the finance bill that sparked the crisis. Our Olivia Bizo brings us more.
There have been chaotic scenes here in Nairobi since this morning. A lot has been going on. The riot police that you can see behind me have been firing tear gas non-stop. Every time that protesters try to gather, they have been firing tear gas at them. The riot police have also been firing rubber bullets and some live bullets as well. But despite the risks, despite the violence and the potential dangers, protesters are still determined to take to the streets.
He must come down. His leaders who are corrupt, they must go down too. We don't want them. We want a new regime, whether old or young people. We want new people with a good vision of Kenya. That's right. And that's why we are saying Ruto must go.
When we crowd in a place like here, they just come throw tear gas. You can see they threw me this tear gas. It hit me here and I'm feeling so pain, and yet I was peaceful. Only raising the Kenyan flag higher, yeah.
These protests were sparked by the proposed 2024 financial bill. President William Ruto has since withdrawn that bill, but people are now saying that they're taking to the streets for something bigger. A lot of them want Ruto to resign, and they're also angry about the amount of violence that's been used. Since the beginning of the protests, according to the Human Rights Commission, at least 39 people have been killed, more than 300 people have been injured, and more than 600 people have been arrested. Protesters have said they're going to take to the streets once again this Thursday.
So live there for us in downtown Nairobi. The protests are the most serious crisis of President Ruto's government since he took over in September 2022. There are no official leaders of the protest movement, but marches have also sprung up in Mombasa and Kisumu. Allegations of widespread police brutality have fanned those calls for Ruto's exit. Sophie Lamott tells us more about the context of the unrest.
Coffins laid out on the streets and gunshots resonating through central Nairobi. In just over a week of protest, dozens of people have been killed in clashes with police forces. Roger Zulu, 26, unemployed and homeless, took part in these demonstrations. He was hit with a rubber bullet.
The police should protect us. Instead, they're killing us. This isn't fair. They should just use tear gas if they must. But now they're using bullets. Do they want to kill us?
The protests, which started as an outpouring of anger over a proposed finance bill that would raise the cost of living, have grown into a nationwide movement against corruption and misgovernance. The main opposition party met on Tuesday, calling for President Ruto to take responsibility and put an end to police brutality.
As we speak, the reports are that upwards of 50 individuals have been illegally abducted and their whereabouts remain unknown. The head of state himself has tried to distance his regime from these killings, injuries and abductions, instead conjuring up theories when everyone can see the blood on his hands.
On his part, William Ruto has always defended the police's legitimate use of force against what he calls criminals who have hijacked the demonstrations. He's also warned that the government would have to borrow heavily following the decision to scrap the finance bill in order to meet IMF targets. Over the last few days, protests have spread to other Kenyan cities, with demonstrators asking for Ruto to step down.
Well, Nigeria's army says that multiple suicide bombings in the northeastern border town of Gwoza over the weekend were launched in retaliation to the military's recent successes in its anti-jihadist operations. Over 30 people were killed in at least 4 devastating blasts that targeted a wedding, a funeral, and a hospital on Saturday. No one's yet claimed responsibility for the attacks, but authorities have blamed Boko Haram militants. The army's recently ramped up airstrikes on extremist camps around Lake Chad. Now, that's also where a regional multinational security force says that at least 70 militants have recently been killed in land, air, and naval strikes. Sudan is the world's worst displacement crisis. More than 12 million people forced out of their homes since the war between rival generals began last April. More than 2 million have left the country and become refugees. On Tuesday, the UN's refugee agency said that it was expanding its aid plan for victims of the conflict to include those who've headed to Uganda, where 55,000 Sudanese are expected to be before the end of the year. Libya is also to be included, where the projection is for at least 149,000 Sudanese. The latest expansion of the UN response plan brings to 7 the number of African countries currently taking in large numbers of Sudanese refugees. Rwanda's a little over a week away from a presidential election that bears some pretty stark similarities to the last one. The same 3 men are running as last time, and there's little doubt that President Paul Kagame will stroll into re-election. Clement de Roma, though, did go to meet one of the other candidates who doesn't seem to be under any illusions about his chances.
Is a little known to the Rwandan public and was backed by only 0.7% of votes in the 2017 presidential polls. He's running again as an independent. Mpayimana, who's a civil servant, is one of only 2 men going up against President Paul Kagame, who beat the same pair in the previous election. Mpayimana says he admires Kagame and is not looking for a showdown with the leader.
It's an opposition where everyone can present their position and defend it without really attacking others. I am an opponent, yes, that doesn't scare me, but in the Rwandan sense of the term. We have ministers who have been in office for 25 years. The government really needs reform. If there is a new president, a new government, it's a renewal and it's good for the country.
Mpayimana says he has 3 goals: to reform institutions and sectors of the economy and tourism, to foster civic involvement in politics, and to preserve the progress accomplished by Paul Kagame, who has been in power for 24 years now. Re-elected with 98% of the votes in 2017, the president is the overwhelming favorite for the election and is expected to be returned for a 4th term. 3 prominent opponents of the leader have been barred from running on July 15.
DR Congo's mineral wealth has done little to enrich the communities that live around the mines where the commodities are extracted. Plants don't grow, people fall sick, rivers are poisoned with the wastewater of the copper and cobalt ripped from the earth. Neither polluters nor authorities seem to do much about it.
Green, murky water running through the Luano River, close to the Democratic Republic of Congo's 2nd largest city, seeping into groundwater and polluting crop fields.
And these vegetables, which receive acidified water, are already impacted by this pollution, which means that, environmentally speaking, this river and this area are not livable.
The DRC is Africa's top producer of copper and cobalt, key components of batteries used in electronics and electric vehicles. Mining is the economic lifeblood of the region, attracting investments from across the globe. But experts have already documented dramatic consequences on human health. Local doctors say some 60% of children they see have health issues related to the water and air pollutions from the mine.
There are documented diseases, including skin diseases. And then there are contaminated food. We see the impact on women. There have been reports of congenital malformations at birth.
Environmental activists say the mines and the government aren't doing enough to protect local populations. Allegations denied by local authorities.
Mining royalties are paid monthly. The legislator has provided for monitoring mechanisms, which means that once these funds are paid, it is now up to the state to do what it should to monitor pollution.
As a violent conflict rages on in the country's eastern region, international organizations have also warned of widespread human rights abuses in the mining industry.
Well, our team in Cameroon were recently amongst those celebrating La Zone. The Yaoundé Festival drew musicians, dancers, athletes and performers of all kinds from across the continent. And our team sent us this report.
Final rehearsals are underway ahead of a one-of-a-kind fashion show. It's all happening at Avenue Kennedy in central Yaoundé. This part of the Cameroonian capital can sometimes be pretty rough. But today, it's been given a glow-up, and some of the models strutting their stuff were once among the street children that call this part of the city home.
It's the street that inspires us, that rocks us. Give street children the opportunity to have another vision of the street.
It's the second edition of La Zone by Domaf. The Afrocentric festival puts on cultural events across the city. 13-year-old Ismail is one of the youngest members of the 237 BMX family. Today, they thrilled their audience with a spectacular biking show.
I practice BMX because it makes me happy. It makes people happy. I like it when people cheer me on. It makes me want to work harder. My friends encourage me a lot. And it really gives me that extra push.
The festival offers a variety of shows, including musicians, fashion designers, and visual artists.
The choice of the street is precisely to bring art among people, avoid closed rooms, and show them that this creativity is accessible to them.
The Zone by Domaf is a satellite event of the Douala Music Arts Festival, the largest music and urban cultural festival in Central Africa. Domaf will take place in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, between November 14 and 17, 2024.
Well, just a few weeks away from the Paris Olympics, and Tunisian athletes representing their country here are giving it their all at home, at training, before heading over to the French capital. Taekwondo and wrestling are the sports with the most qualifying Tunisian athletes, and they know that the stakes are high. Our team sent us this report.
The countdown to the Paris Games started long ago for these Taekwondo athletes who are training in this sports complex in Tunis. One favorite is Mohamed Khalil Jandoubi, who brought home a silver medal from the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. His example inspired a whole new generation, like Firas Katousi, the current world champion in the men's under 80 kilo class.
Thanks to Khalil's win in Tokyo, people know Taekwondo more, are following it more. People send us messages, encourage us. People are waiting to watch the competition.
In the Dojang, the training hall, is Ikram Dahri, 27. This will be her first Olympics ever.
It's a bit stressful. Sure, there's stress in any competition, but the whole world will be watching this competition. It's not just any ordinary competition. So I'm trying to prepare mentally, most of all, and also physically, of course.
In an adjacent room, the female and male teams for Greco-Roman wrestling and freestyle wrestling practice falls and arm holds. Training side by side is an advantage for Siwar Boussetta, who qualified for the Olympics.
Men are stronger than women, so we take that strength, and when we wrestle with women, I feel it's much easier.
2 men and 2 women wrestlers will fly to Paris. They're dreaming of a podium finish like their role model, Marwa Amri. The coach of the women's team is the first Tunisian and Arab woman to have won a medal in freestyle wrestling at the 2016 Olympics in Rio.
Wrestling was seen badly, because people think that women who wrestle are aggressive. But really now the mentality has changed a lot. Why? Because there's a lot of women, and it's spread not just in Tunisia. It's spread to other Arab countries too.
In the run-up to Paris at the beginning of July, these athletes are counting on a lot more concentration and solidarity to get them ready.
Looking good, guys. Well, that is all we have time for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us, though. Do so again. Till then, take care.